Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk about the Asgard and make some wild speculation. This is a theory crafting video and it's kind of inspired by Guardian's video, and I'll leave a link in the description below and in the pinned comment of this video so you guys can check out his video, theory crafting, about what the Asgard could be. But I think this is a pretty interesting topic, talking about the different roles of ships in Star Citizen with the UEE military. I know many keen-eyed observers who have seen the Squadron 42 gameplay demo may have noticed that there are other ships in the UEE Navy's fleet that are kind of based on ships that we have or know about in the game right now, but are significantly different. Like there is variants of the Bengal apparently. There is a variant of the Bengal that does not have this nose here, so it's safe to assume that it might not have the same internal hanger as the standard Bengal. There are Bengals that, instead of having this top flight deck here, have large gun cannons on the top and bottom, right? So in that Squadron 42 gameplay demo, the introduction of Squadron 42, we saw more variants of Bengals than we saw of other ships, right? We didn't really see many Javelin and Idris variants, even though there are several Idris variants that the players even have access to. But for now, there is only one primary Javelin variant, right? So we know that as a flagship, the Bengal platform essentially can serve different roles, right? So the Bengal's made by RSI, right? The Idris is made by Aegis, right? And then the Liberator is made by Anvil. So the new Asgard is made by Anvil, and there is essentially a voice recording that says that it is going to be like a transport ship. Now, I think this is particularly interesting because of the Kraken, right? So another thing that a lot of people may notice is that Drake is not invited to Invictus. In lore, uh, because Drake has, connections to pirates and potentially even the council, right? CIG is working on this new pirate mafia faction, essentially, where it's a consortium of different pirate organizations that have come together to essentially streamline the process, and they're called the council or whatever. And so Drake being closely aligned with, these people who were potentially bad, right? The UEE Navy doesn't want to associate themselves with Drake in that way. But right now, the Kraken is the only carrier ship that has the landing platform capabilities that you would expect out of a Navy ship like that, right? So you think about it, the UE Navy doesn't really have something like the Kraken in its lineup. And you can see the Kraken here next to the Liberator. And a lot of people look at the Liberator as kind of a baby Kraken because the Liberator is designed for space transport and ground transport. And the Kraken is kind of the same way because the Kraken can actually land on a planet, which is a bit different than, I would say, the Javelin and the Bengal. The Bengal definitely cannot land on planets. The Idris can land on planets, but again, it's enclosed and can really only it's designed around being able to hold 3 ships internally, right? And so you could definitely say that being able to hold ships internally is going to be better, But in terms of, speed of deployment, having landing pads is just going to be faster, right? And safer because you don't have ships that could potentially bounce around on the inside of your ship and cause damage to the inside of the ship. So as we saw in Squadron 42, there were these kind of rails, these maglev, gravlev things that kind of launch the ships out of the Bengal, right? So that kind of keeps the ship locked in place so it can exit to the front here. And you can see this opening here, and you can kind of, I guess, see it on the flight deck part of that ship. So again, the UEE Navy doesn't really have a Kraken style ship in their lineup, right? So here's my prediction. Here's what I'm thinking. I think potentially that the Asgard could be a Kraken competitor. Again, you have Liberator, but that's kind of a smaller scale. So I kind of put these ships into classes, kind of again, what they would be in real life. So I would say the Bengal is kind of close to the Nimitz class, right? Then we have the Javelin, I would say is kind of close to the Ollie Book class. If you know anything about that class is kind of like it is a torpedo boat. It has it is a destroyer. The Javelin is a destroyer. It is a torpedo destroyer. I would say that the Idris is kind of like the America class. If you know what the America class looks like, that's kind of like a smaller carrier ship. It looks like a baby Nimitz class. And then I would say that the Liberator is kind of close to the Wasp class. The Wasp class is like an amphibious vehicle deployment ship. And so then I guess I would kind of compare the Kraken competitor Asgard to the newer San Antonio class, right? That have the ability to deploy amphibious vehicles, ground vehicles, and it has a flight deck for helicopters to land on. So what I want to do now is kind of move over to look at what these real world uh, fleet ships look like in comparison to their utility, their use case in the game. So now we get to the newer San Antonio class. And this is really what I think might be at play here with the Asgard, right? Um, a kind of newer ship. Again, not strictly in line with this design. I think it will probably be closer to the Kraken with that larger flight deck. Um, but this has that kind of dual role, right? Where it has missiles on torpedoes, it has the flight deck at the back. So you could see kind of the garage there that the helicopters come out of. It has two helicopter pads there, and then it has the opening at the back, kind of like the Wasp class for amphibious vehicles. And it's kind of just a picture of it in production. It's the real thing with the crew. And you can see the large back there. So this door at the back kind of opens up, right? And it becomes a ramp or whatever. So amphibious vehicles or ground vehicles can come out from. And then you have the two helipads there and the garage inside of there. Yeah, here's kind of a better picture of the inside of the hull or what it can hold, right? So you have the garage in here for the helicopters. You can kind of see one helicopter in there. And actually, this photo is showing that it could probably hold four on the flight deck. There's two side by side there, and then there's one there. Then you have two amphibious vehicle inside. Then you have all these tanks and whatnot on different levels inside of the ship. So I think that personally, the Asgard might be something like this. And you think about what Asgard means, right? It is basically heaven in Norse mythology. So this is where the gods live essentially. And if you look at, if you want to say that, you know, the F8 and the F7 and those types of ships made by Anvil are the quote unquote gods of the game, they need to live somewhere, right? And so their heaven would be their carrier ship, a carrier ship that's specifically designed for those vehicles. So I think that the Asgard might be kind of closer to this San Antonio class. It might be a competitor to the Kraken, with a larger flight deck that can have ships landed on it, a bigger brother to the Liberator, um, and essentially it could act as Anvil's capital ship. Because you think about it in lore, the Kraken was supposed to be the Corvette, the Anvil Corvette, right? But that was retired and replaced by the Idris. So in lore, Anvil is not just going to, you know, let Aegis kind of take over there. They're probably going to come back. And again, in lore, Aegis has kind of taken over what a lot of the Anvil stuff have done. Like Anvil held the primary contract with the UEE Navy, and then as time passed, Aegis has taken that over. Now, kind of the way that CIG are doing it is that a lot of the Anvil ships are getting updated with, you know, stuff like the Mark II and Liberator. So it seems to me that CIG wants to bring Anvil back as one of the primary players in the UEE Navy. And so a ship like the Asgard is really going to put Anvil back on the map, finally get them a capital ship or corvette back, because again the Carrack has been transferred to the civilian markets, and the Carrack is a great ship. Many players use the Carrack as their flagship. Before the Polaris, it was the #1 ship for group gameplay. So I think that the Asgard could be really exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, it's been long overdue for Anvil to have a capital ship. Again, I'm not saying this is no guarantee. I don't know if that's the case here, but I think it would be a really good opportunity for CIG to bring in a capital ship for Anvil. And I think that the Asgard is going to be the primary concept ship for Fleet Week. I think that this ship, you know, it's more likely not coming anytime soon, is basically what I'm saying. But as a concept, I think that Anvil desperately needs it. And yeah, I'm excited for it. But let me know what you guys think. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think the Asgard is? Again, the audio file from the leak essentially says that it is a carrier. It can, you know, carry vehicles and stuff like that. It's an Anvil ship, so obviously it's a military ship. I don't think it's an industrial anything. But I want to hear what you guys think. Is it something that you're particularly interested in? Have you had enough of capital ships? Have you had enough of combat ships? Do you just want a new salvage ship? I want to hear from you guys. I love talking to you guys in comments down below. You guys know that I love responding to everyone. I respond to as many of you guys as I possibly can. Thank you so much for the support on the videos. It really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate you guys taking your time to watch these videos and, you know, be a part of the discourse. The Star Citizen community is my absolute favorite community in gaming, and that's why I do these videos. So with all of that being said, that's going to be it for me here in this video, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me again. And like I always say at the end of all these videos, you guys, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Salut.